The Academy of Arts for Enlightenment, Creative Excellence Through Higher Consciousness. A new global organization for a new approach to the arts based on the total knowledge of the science of consciousness and technology of transcendental meditation. The Academy's mission is the full unfoldment of all disciplines of artistic expression: the visual arts, crafts, design disciplines, music, the performing arts, and the writing arts. The wide range of artistic expressions is woven into the fabric of our daily lives. The arts structure our environment, contribute to our cultural identity, and color civilizations through the centuries. It is vital, therefore, that artists everywhere realize their full creative potential for their own personal fulfillment and for the fulfillment of society. The Academy of Arts for Enlightenment offers total knowledge and experience of unbounded creative intelligence in consciousness, the basis of all artistic expression, which is now available to artists of all genres. An invitation to artists, artisans, craftspeople, designers, musicians, performers, writers, and poets. Here is a simple, natural way to develop full creative potential. The enlightened artist, enjoying creative expression in tune with natural law, bliss consciousness, wellness, and peace in life. The science of consciousness unfolds the field of total knowledge in the artist's awareness through a process of analysis and synthesis. Each arts discipline is understood and experienced with reference to its source, the field of total knowledge, the unified field of all the laws of nature, which is the inner self of every artist, transcendental, pure consciousness. The value of total knowledge in the arts cannot be overestimated, because the unfoldment of infinite creativity through total knowledge is the basis to fulfill all desires and realize all possibilities in daily life, thus bringing to fulfillment the long-sought goals of all fields of creative expression. Arts for Enlightenment courses. The Master Series comprises 3 courses of historic lectures by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi on the deep principles underlying creativity and artistic expression. A must for artists, designers, musicians, performers, writers, poets, and all appreciators of art and culture. Hello, and a warm welcome to this webinar on a consciousness-based approach to music for enlightenment. This is the 3rd webinar conducted by the Academy of Arts for Enlightenment, and we look forward to presenting more and more webinars over time in our consideration of all fields of artistic expression in the light of Maharishi's science of consciousness. So today our theme is music. It's a vast area of interest to just about everyone. And I would like to start off with an explanation of the power of music. And this is extracted from the first catalogue of Maharishi International University that was published in 1972. And I quote, "Everyone finds a tremendous appeal in music because music arises from so fundamental a source that its structure is parallel to the structure of life and to that of the cosmos as a whole. This is why Pythagoras wrote that music and the universe of heavenly bodies are governed by the same mathematical laws. It is also why music has the power to resonate with every level of awareness of the listener, the mind, intellect, emotions, and the field of pure creative silence. Because music wields such a powerful influence, we want to consider this fundamental principle, which we know to be consciousness, the unbounded source of the sound value. We will be hearing from our 6 distinguished guest artists in the musical field. All are talented musicians, but there is an important distinction with each of them. They are all long-time practitioners of the Transcendental Meditation and TM City programs. So apart from their many and exceptional musical talents and abilities, they have that added value of transcendence in their life and work, cultured over many, many years. And this has given them a unique understanding in their field, not just in terms of the quality of their music, but as individuals grounded in that holistic value of consciousness and the pursuit of enlightenment. But before we hear from our guests and enjoy some of their music, I just wanted to dwell for a minute or two on this added value of music in terms of consciousness, because it's an important understanding which has been largely missing in music and all fields of the arts. When reviewing the curriculum of Maharishi International University in 1973, Maharishi commented that the artist's creative expression is embodied in the work of art that he or she produces. He explained that it is the level of consciousness of the creator that is reflected in the quality or coherence of their brain functioning. And this value gets structured into the work of art or the piece of music. So this is a very fascinating point, that when the viewer or the audience is exposed to the work, that level of coherence of brain functioning embodied in the work is imprinted onto the brain of the viewer or the audience. Therefore, we can see that every artist and musician actually carries a responsibility to maximize the influence of his or her work on the audience and society at large. And the more consciousness or coherence of brain functioning, the deeper and broader will be the life-supporting impact of the work in terms of raising the quality of life of individuals and society as a whole. So it's a very fascinating and beautiful point that we would not know unless we have the understanding and experience from the viewpoint of consciousness, consciousness-based music. Now, much later, Maharishi apologies for all branches of learning in terms of gaining total knowledge through the process of synthesis and analysis. From the perspective of the field of music, we understand this by looking at all the different components involved in the creation and the experience of music. For example, structure, melody, rhythm, pitch, harmony, timbre and tone, as well as the huge range of genres in the whole field of music. I mean, we know that music embraces such a huge range of expressions. Classical Western music, Indian Gandharva music, blues. These are just some examples. Country and Western, ethnic, folk music, gospel, Latin, pop and rock, soundtrack music, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, all the various creative professions involved in the creation of music, the composers, the directors, producers, conductors, and arrangers, and so on. All of these different components of music are seen to converge through a process of synthesis in the field of total knowledge, the unified field of all the laws of nature, the totality of the self, field of pure consciousness of the musician. And on this basis, all these specific components of music may be then analyzed in the light of total knowledge, the self. Now, this approach of synthesizing all the elements of music within the self, the unbounded self, and then the value of analysis, application, and expression in the light of total knowledge, the self, is the way to unfold the full creative potential of the musician in the state of enlightenment. As Maharishi said, the value of total knowledge cannot be overestimated, because the unfoldment of infinite creativity through total knowledge is the basis to fulfill all desires and realize all possibilities in daily life. So with this snapshot, just brief little insights into the nature of this consciousness-based approach to music, music in the light of total knowledge. Let's now proceed to hear from our guest musicians. And the program will be that we will first experience their music or songs, and then each of them will give a brief talk on their knowledge and experience from their long careers and focus on this viewpoint of consciousness in their work. And I would just add that you will notice that in all of their music, there is this radiance of life-supporting qualities that we were just alluding to just now. There is something of the infinite in each piece that they will be presenting, something that radiates sattva, goodness, the qualities of peace, bliss, love, and joy. And this will be a gift that we can take home with us after we've enjoyed these beautiful expressions. So I would like to start by introducing our first guest, who is someone that I've had the great pleasure of knowing for many years, who is blessed with two very great gifts in the field of vocal music. One is a very beautiful singing voice that I always think of as divine velvet. And the other is the ability to compose songs based on Maharishi's knowledge and inspiration. So Dr. Emily Levin received her master's in education from the University of California at Berkeley, and another master's and teaching credential in music from the University of Michigan. And she is the recipient of yet another master's degree in the science of creative intelligence. She became a teacher of transcendental meditation in 1972. Emily was a member of the faculty of the music department at Maharishi International University from 1978 to 80, and was Dean of Students at Maharishi University of Enlightenment in Livingston Manor, New York in 1992. And in 2006, she was made an administrator of the International TM organization, known as Rajeshwari. In 2007, she received a doctorate in Supreme Political Science. Emily began writing songs for Maharishi based on his lectures in 1974 and has continued to write them over these many years. In fact, she has composed over 300 songs and counting. In 1975, Maharishi gave Emily the title of Minister of Music and Merriment, and she has recorded 2 albums in 1978 and 2013. And in 2022, Emily composed 16 children's songs, one for each of the 16 principles of the science of creative intelligence, called Ties to the Universe, which is now being taught worldwide. So it's really a great pleasure to start with one of Emily's songs now, called 5 Fingers. And then it'll be our delight to hear from Emily.
Whenever, wherever it came to be, we were whispered infinity. Come and be our goal. In unity we meet tonight as a golden bulb gives golden light. United be the whole. Like 5 fingers of the hand in perfect harmony, we are plan, enlightenment for every man, has set us on our course to the glorious self inside, with pure knowledge as our guide. This our common souls, like 5 fingers of the hand in perfect harmony, we are being, growing, radiating together. Wherever we may be, here to theirs, just here to here. Come and be our mind. In gratitude we light the light, grant the wish we wish tonight. United be mankind. Like 5 fingers of the hand in perfect harmony, we are being, growing, radiating together. Grant our wish of perfect health and immortality, as we're being, growing, radiating forever.
Thank you, Raj Anthony. When someone writes a song, the impulse usually comes from within, a personal thought or emotion that it inspires us to express it through music. My experience in songwriting was somewhat different. I began to write songs for Maharishi in 1975. One day, Maharishi stopped as he was passing through the lobby and said to me, "You should write a song on the dawn of the Age of Enlightenment." What I first thought was a deeply kind passing comment, I soon came to understand as an instruction for years to come. From the very first song I wrote, I was singing Maharishi's knowledge. All my songs were based on his lectures, and of course, while they emerged from a great love for Maharishi, they were not about my own personal experience. It was all about the knowledge. And expressions of gratitude in the songs, for example, were expressed in a more universal way. As a result, the process of writing songs was more systematic and less spontaneous in a way, and an intellectual endeavor, along with flowing feeling. The words always came first. And what often worked for me was to make a list on the left side of the paper of short phrases from Maharishi's lecture, which I wanted to include. And on the right side, I listed the common phrases of that particular topic, which he was discussing. And I would work to combine the pure knowledge with the relative. An example from the song Victory Before War was, twice a day the new recruit will retreat to the absolute. So combining Maharishi with some military terms, and that was what I did a lot. The melody would emerge from the rhythm of the words and just through the grace of the muses. And once I found what is often referred to as the hook, the rest of the melody would usually unfold quite easily. Maharishi said, whatever we put our attention on grows in our life, something to remember in general. In that respect, and in many respects, I was very fortunate to be immersed in this supreme knowledge of consciousness. Very fortunate. The song you heard today was composed around, I think, 1978, when Maharishi was giving a lecture on unifying the differences to achieve a common goal. He referred to the 5 fingers of the hand, each finger having its own shape and position, but its power fully expressed in its wholeness. In retrospect, I like that these songs are an historical record of where Maharishi's enlightened attention was flowing at any given time. So many projects bestowing his divine blessings to the world year after year. I'd like to close with a quote from Maharishi. Music absorbs. It's a great expression of love, which rises to unify. Differences are dissolved in the field of love. The coarseness is neutralized in the impulses of music. Music has a very great role in refining life. So thank you, Raja Anthony, and everyone for giving me this opportunity. Take your dab.
Thank you so much, Emily. It's beautiful to hear Maharishi's comments there, refining this ability to refine life. It just reflects on what I was just saying at the start, that the value of consciousness, and you've been so immersed in consciousness, you're in a vast amount of your life, just about all of it. And then when we hear you singing, you can feel that quality coming through. That refinement is there in your voice, and also in the choice of those lyrics, which is so beautiful and so divine. How uplifting that is. And so it's a beautiful gift that you've developed and refined over many years. Very fortunate, as you know, to have had that experience of working with Maharishi. And we'll hear from Paul Fauerso, also had a similar experience. It's delightful, and thank you for that absolutely lovely song. I felt every time I listened to it, and in fact, it's the same with all of our guests today, that when you listen to this music, it's not just music. All music uplifts the emotions in some way, form, or another, but there's something else there. There's something else, and it's coming from something very deep and very refined. So I love that expression that Maharishi brought out, that refinement value. Thank you so much. It's my great pleasure now to introduce Dr. Paul Skevington. Paul holds degrees in organ performance from Indiana University and a doctorate in liturgical music from the Catholic University of America. He developed a highly acclaimed, well-rounded sacred music program for 28 years at St. Luke Catholic Church in McLean, Virginia. He founded the Music in McLean concert series, hosting 18 musical events each year. His 40-voice festival choir has sung at St. Peter's in Rome and Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Known for his artistic skill in supporting choral voices, he has performed at all the cathedrals and major concert venues in the Washington, D.C. area, including numerous engagements at the Kennedy Center. And he can be heard on 5 compact discs under the Naxos Summit and Gothic labels, including the internationally released organ concertos by Joseph Reinberger. Paul is the newly appointed music director at St. Alphonsus Catholic Church in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, and he has been a lifelong participant in the Transcendental Meditation and TM City programs. So we'll now enjoy a very special piece that Paul has submitted. Paul is the featured organist performing with the City Choir of Washington, D.C. So now we will proceed to enjoy this beautiful performance.
Amen.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on this webinar. The Vita Toccata that you just heard was originally written as a solo organ symphony. This particular movement is the most well-known of all his works and is beloved by organists around the world. It was also one of the favorite pieces of this composer, who often played it as a postlude on Easter Sunday morning. This particular version is arranged for choir and organ, with the City Choir of Washington performing, and the concert took place at St. Luke Catholic Church in McLean, and I was responsible for overseeing the installation of this magnificent pipe organ. It takes an incredible intellectual focus to perform a piece of music like this, both for the organist, whose fingers are constantly busy, and for the voices of the choir. The intellect is very lively, calculating the notes, the rhythm, the fingering, the movement of the feet, all that. At the same time, you have to let go of the intellect and immerse yourself in the group coherence. And with this particular setup, with the choir and the large pipe organ, the group activity is so harmonious. It definitely focuses your attention on what's happening. But most importantly, all this outward activity needs to be supported by an inner silence. And from the many years of practicing TM, I experienced that inner calm even in the midst of all this dynamic activity of performing. The silence provides a great comfort with the music. It's like being at home. Music is my friend. There's a creative force within that provides the ability to shape the music, to play with it, to bring it to life. When this inner silence dominates in my awareness, I feel like nothing else exists except the music and my experience of it. And I've come to realize that all great musicians are very aware of this deep, silent level of being. Yet, as an organ teacher, I'm very aware of the difficulty in teaching this silence to young students. It's difficult to explain how this silent level of being needs to be expanded and enlivened in order to support the intellectual activity. And of course, it's not something that you can explain, because if the student tries to create that silence, it's on the surface and it falls flat. The only way to really provide that silence in the music is for the musician to experience it in the depth of their own awareness. And I feel that the TM program is a profound way to develop this inner silence so that it naturally radiates even in the most dynamic activity of performing. So I'm grateful to be able to share my experience with everyone today. Thank you, Raja Anthony.
Thank you so much, Paul. It was an absolutely beautiful, beautiful piece. But as you mentioned there, you've got a collective consciousness when you're dealing with such a large group of musicians or a choir. And you alluded to this silence, this value of silence, which of course is fundamental. Silence is between the notes. It's the silence and the dynamic value, the two together, silence and dynamism together, that creates the flow of music. And so the silence is absolutely vital. To whatever extent a musician can experience silence, maybe it's more superficial with some, and those who have access to the transcendent, then that silence is deep and endless. And this is the value of a consciousness-based approach to the kind of music that you're involved with and you have the experience in your own life, that otherwise music can become too technical, too intellectual, and without the soul in it being evident in the piece. And I think all the great masters of music from the past, Beethoven, Mozart, and so on, they all had that deep value of silence there, which is why their music has been perpetuated throughout time. So it's a beautiful point. Thank you very much for that wonderful contribution. Great delight. It's a great joy now to introduce someone whose voice and songs have been widely known and enjoyed for several decades throughout the TM movement. Paul Fauerso is a highly talented singer-songwriter, composer, arranger, keyboardist, and producer. His jazz rock group, The Loading Zone, shared the Fillmore stage in the 60s with such legendary groups as Cream, The Who, The Byrds, The Grateful Dead, Sam and Dave, Janis Joplin, Chuck Berry, and others. And Paul has composed and produced music for many award-winning radio and TV commercials, as well as infomercial and feature film scores. Paul holds a degree in music from Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas, and is a governor of the Age of Enlightenment. He worked closely with Maharishi to incorporate the principles of the science of creative intelligence and Maharishi Vedic science in songs, which have been released on several albums, most recently a 2-CD compilation called Songs for Maharishi, available at bandcamp.com. During the Sweet Taste of Utopia course in 1983-84, Maharishi gave Paul the title of Minister of Music and Merriment of the Age of Enlightenment, as he did also to Emily. Paul has also produced albums for other artists, notably 2 collections of songs by Mike Love and of the Beach Boys called First Love and the soon-to-be-released Only One Earth. He served as chair of MIU's music department from 1987 to the year 2000 and was instrumental, pun intended or not, in the 80s in organizing the Maharishi Gandharva-Veda program inspired by Maharishi called Festival of Music for World Peace. Paul has selected a pop song from his extensive catalogue called The World Is My Family, and we will hear more from him after enjoying this rather fun, well-crafted mix of melody, rhythm, and lyrics.
The world is my family. We breathe as one, universal citizens. Vasudeva Kumbhakam. All of our branches grow on the same tree. From a cosmic perspective, we're one big family. Yeah. Sometimes we fuss and fight. We know that ain't right, but what can we do? We need a common ground between me and you. Close your eyes and look inside. The truth of life can't be denied. Everything is really unified. You and me in harmony. Worldwide family pride. Yeah. The world is my family. Our hearts beat as one. The earth is our mother. Our father's the golden sun. Unification will get the job done. And earth will be heaven for thousands of years to come. Trouble all over the world's increased. We need one group of 7,000 at least to avert the danger and create peace. We can transform life on earth if we transcend boundaries first. Maharishi has a master key to global peace and harmony. Soon every eye will see. Yeah. The world is my family. Our hearts beat as one. Universal citizens. Vasudeva Kumbhakam. Group meditation will get the job done. earth will be heaven for thousands of years to come. The world is my family. Everyone's dear to me.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to initially thank Raja Anthony for giving me this opportunity to be with everyone today. And it's quite an august group of enlightened musicians that are here. I wanted to say right off the bat that I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, hence the Golden Gate Bridge behind me. I started classical piano training at the age of 5, and then I had a jazz trio in high school. And I graduated in 1965 and was scheduled to go to San Francisco State College and major in music. But everyone was starting a band at that time. The Grateful Dead were called the Warlocks. There was Jefferson Airplane, Quicksilver Messenger Service. So I wanted to start a band. You could feel that energy and that electricity literally in the air. So I think much to my parents' horror, I started this band in Berkeley, California, and we were that first wave of, you could say, flower children, and we were really sincere aspirants for higher states of consciousness and for enlightenment. And we were reading Autobiography of a Yogi and Tibetan Book of the Dead and trying different kinds of meditations, most of which were sort of boring and didn't do much. But then all of a sudden, we heard that the Beatles guru, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, was coming to Berkeley and was going to speak at the Berkeley Community Theater. So we all went, the entire loading zone, we all went there. And my girlfriend, who's been my wife of 55 years, Josie Fauerso, was there with me, and we were in the last row of the balcony. And we loved what Maharishi said. He said, just do this twice a day. You don't have to change your lifestyle, and then your whole life will improve. So we all started TM in 1967. And then we went on several residence courses with Jerry Jarvis. And then at a certain point, I decided to quit the loading zone, and I sold my Hammond B3 organ so that we could go on teacher training. And our teacher training course was in Mallorca. And then we got to be with Maharishi quite a bit. And that's when he put me together with someone named Rick Stanley, and we started writing songs together. And Maharishi really charged all pop musicians with this assignment. He said, take this knowledge and put it into songs and make them popular. Get those songs on the radio. So that's kind of, The World Is My Family is kind of an attempt to create something that could be popular on the radio. But we started writing a lot of songs. And then when we got back to Berkeley, Maharishi had us doing singing lectures up and down the West Coast. And before I started meditating, I really had a big writer's block. But once I started TM and started transcending to that ocean of pure consciousness deep within, there was no more writer's block. And the first song I wrote in 1969 that I was happy with was called One for All. And it even had a line from Maharishi, from what Maharishi would say, which was, man isn't born to suffer, even though it seems that way sometimes. But anyway, I've just found that over the years, that ability to contact that reservoir of pure consciousness is absolutely invaluable to anyone who wants to create anything from scratch. You know, in a sense, when you sit to write a song, it's like a blank canvas. You have all these possibilities, and sometimes it can be intimidating. But if you have that habit of transcending to this reservoir of creativity, then that just flows. And I feel like the best songs that I've ever written sort of wrote themselves, really. So anyway, it's a joy to be here. And recently, Dr. Tony Nader put together a tremendous course in India for 10,000 people. And so far I've heard that there are 3 groups or 3 individuals that are very serious about funding groups of 10,000. So we may have 3 groups of 10,000. Anyway, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from Brenda and from Jane Pitt. Shaker Dev.
Great. Thank you so much, Paul. I've been a great fan of Paul's music for endless years. Since I first came to join Maharishi's international staff, that was 1972. Maharishi had just inaugurated the World Plan, and there was Paul and Rick on the stage. Pretty much the first night I got there, somebody took me into the hall, and Maharishi came in, and there was Paul and Rick singing some songs, and I just thought they were fantastic. You had that harmonium you were using, which you probably still use. Just beautiful songs. And I just, not very long ago, I came across the Something Good Is Happening, that's right. And I just love all those songs, every single one, and I could just keep listening to them over and over and over. They're very inspiring, they're full of knowledge, great direction, they're just so beautiful. And I think, you're such a great storyteller, and I know that one of the stories is that Maharishi has given you very specific guidelines on, and even contributed to the lyrics of some of those songs.
Yes.
So at some point we'll have you back and you can relate those stories. It'll be very interesting to hear more about all that. The other quick point I wanted to make is about, you mentioned that people suffer from writer's block, creative block. Artists from all genres have this problem simply because stress dominates human life. And everybody has some kind of health issues or relationship problems to deal with, born of just stress that it just pervades every aspect of life. And unless you can find a simple, natural way to neutralize that buildup of stress, it just gets more and more deep-rooted. And I think for the creatives of our world, TM is a tremendous boon. It's the greatest blessing for any artist from any field of the arts. It establishes that silence, that peace, that inner contentment, and then the creativity just flows out and those blocks just disappear. It's just the greatest thing.
Absolutely.